Hello, everybody. Welcome to AAUW Conversation and Connection. I'm Sharon Watson Hamilton. AAUW stands for the American Association of University Women. We are a nonprofit organization promoting and advocating for education and equity for all. We do a lot in the community of Auburn, California, and we're trying to get our voice out there even more, so that's why you're with us today. I do different things. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I interview people from the community. I interview members. Sometimes we have a focal point. But last time I had a wonderful guest in Edleen McKenzie, and it was her story, her journey, what her interests are in AAUW, and she was delightful. And I thought that same idea on our guest today with Carol Roedder. So with that, I'm going to introduce you. So we're going to dive right in.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah. So my first question usually is something like, well, let me digress. I heard this wonderful quote from a friend who said, "We grow up where we first learn to ride a bike." That quote came out of somebody said, "Well, where are you from?" And there's a lot of places we're from. Does that mean my last place I lived, the last state, where I was born? And she said, "You are from where you learn to ride a bike." So Carol, let's start your journey. Where did you learn to ride a bike?
Well, I learned to ride a bike in Lakewood, California.
Lakewood, okay.
But, and this is interesting because I was a teacher and my sister still is a teacher. We were born in Compton.
Oh, like the movie Compton?
Like the movie, like the unrest Compton. Obviously, I don't remember a lot of it. I left there when I was 5 years old. Uh-huh. But it's a great thing to throw into a conversation when you're in a classroom and kids are misbehaving. You just say, "Hey, wait a minute. I came up from Compton. You can sit still in that chair." Sorry. I learned to ride a bike in Lakewood, California.
So when people ask you where you're from, do you usually say Lakewood or do you say Compton?
Neither. I say Tulare, California.
Tulare. Okay, so now there's 3 cities there. I have to know how they're connected.
Okay, well, being born, obviously, I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
And then we moved from Lakewood in 1957. Tragically, my older brother died, and it was difficult for my parents. I was 9 years old, and we moved to Tulare, where I stayed until I went off to college. And the interesting thing to me about Tulare is that a few years ago we all learned about Lake Tulare. Lake Tulare is one of those phantom lakes that appears whenever there are a bunch of Pineapple Expresses that come through and we have all this rain. Well, having lived in Tulare, I never knew about Lake Tulare.
I'll be darned. I'll be darned.
To this day, I haven't seen it, but I see it on a map. I go past it about 5 miles out on the freeway when I go home to visit.
Okay.
But
do you still have family then in Tulare?
Yes,
okay.
I do.
Central Valley, hot. I think of hot.
Yes.
And Lakewood, I'm not sure where Lakewood is.
It's Lakewood next to Long Beach.
That way. Okay.
And my biggest memory of that, I believe it was 1956, 57, I'm dating myself, was the burning of Signal Hill. Look it up. It's
Signal
a fascinating story. All you'll see is a newspaper reflected on the internet, but it's fascinating because Signal Hill still is major oil, and not only that, it was right next to what was then McDonnell Douglas.
I'll be darned.
Which is now, I think, just McDonnell.
Okay.
Aircraft base.
Right.
It burned for days.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
I'll be darned. Well, we're getting okay, and so now we're in Tulare. You rode your bike there.
I did. Clear across the ridge route.
And then where did you go to school?
In Tulare.
You did? Isn't there a state college?
Oh, you're talking about college.
College, yeah.
Okay, different story. I was not slated to go to college.
Okay.
We were very, very poor.
Yeah.
And so I was told that I could go to college at the Sequoias in Visalia, and I raised a fit because in high school I studied French, and I had just this wonderful worldly French teacher. He was an eccentric, and he took a liking to me. I still have the book he gave me when I graduated. He inscribed it. I was the only person to whom he gave a graduation gift. Aww. But there was a special relationship there, and I wanted to be a UN translator. I learned later that only natural speakers can do that, but I got some information from the UN, and I really insisted on going to college. And finally, my mother wrote to UC Berkeley. I wanted to go there because I heard about all the unrest, and I was curious about what it was. Tulare is very, very isolated.
Yeah.
And so on January 1st, now school gets out on January 6th, or got out then. That was my graduation. I came home from school on January 1st. There was a giant envelope sitting on my unmade bed. My parents both worked. And I called my mother up. I said, "What is this?" She said, "I called the registrar. They said, if you can get in, they will keep you in."
Oh.
So I filled it out, and on January 6th, June. So June 1st and June 6th, 5 days later, I was accepted.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
God.
and they
Little
paid
kid
for,
from Tulare to Berkeley.
well,
Wow.
Tulare to Berkeley to France.
All right.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
ride continues.
Okay, I want to hear it.
So my junior year, sophomore year, I applied to go to France. Remember, I studied French.
Right.
And at first I didn't get in. At the very last minute I got in, but again, money was an issue. And then the Bank of America came up with some money for me.
Okay.
So I went over there, and I keep in touch with those people. In fact, I've seen them recently, and I'm going back in October to visit with them. I forged some lifetime friendships.
Like
over
it
there.
wasn't an immersive program
Yeah,
for
it
the
was.
summer or something like
No,
that
no, no.
for a year?
I lived there a whole year,
A whole
came
year.
home, went back another year.
Okay.
Just really became
Wow.
fascinated with it.
Can
So-
you say hello in French?
Bonjour. Bonjour.
I love the French language. I'm terrible at languages. If anything, I think it's such a gift. So wow,
It's
wow
fun.
to you.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the net result is that I get totally hung up on words now.
Okay.
If I think there's a cognate somewhere, I will stop in a conversation and go, wait a minute, where did that word come from? I take that apart in my head.
I love that.
But living overseas, this was essentially post-World War II. It was only 20 years after the war.
Right. Right.
And I learned so much about, my English language did me no good at all, and all I'd had was high school French. So I completely shut down. I had to learn from scratch.
Okay.
You learn how to say words like ouch, and oh, and wait, and, come on now, little expressions. You learn to express yourself that way in a foreign language, and to do that you have to strip yourself down to the bottom.
And
Start
Carol, were you by yourself as well, or were
No.
you with a group?
No,
Like
I was with the Education Abroad program.
Okay.
And it's a very strong program.
Yeah.
From the UC system.
Okay.
And I have a tote that says EAP changed me, which is absolutely true. You live
EAP.
Education Abroad program.
Okay.
You spend a year in a foreign language, speaking in a foreign language, thinking in a foreign language,
Yeah.
Everything, writing your papers in a foreign language.
Yeah.
You're changed
Yeah.
for
yeah.
forever and for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't forget English though, did
No.
you? That kind of stays with you, doesn't it?
Yeah. But the result was I became a better reader.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very difficult for me to read, just physically difficult for me to read before that because of something in my eyes. And after having to learn to read all over again in French, when I got back to the States, then I could sit down and enjoy novels and everything
Aw.
else, reading in my native language.
Yeah,
It's fun.
yeah.
But, I'm not, I can't keep up with a native French speaker who's speaking very rapidly, but I could certainly do that if they're speaking at a moderate
You could,
pace. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's such a gift though, Carol. Such a gift. So from there, you went on to teaching in...
I went on to teaching. I taught, let's see, what did I teach? Well, there was a glut on the market, and so I moved into, what did I do during those years? A whole bunch of different
If
things.
you don't remember them, means you lived them. That's my motto. If you don't remember the 60s, you did okay. Just a thought.
Well, I think what started happening as a result of going overseas was I became interested in global affairs. So that started happening because it was the 60s and the 70s, and all
Right.
this stuff was going on at Berkeley. And, I learned, I became interested in global affairs. I came home, I didn't get a teaching job right away. I sort of punted for a couple of years.
Right.
Then I got a teaching job, teaching French, discovered I really didn't enjoy it that much. And then one day back in the States, somebody asked me, I was on a sub list, and somebody asked me to come sub for 5th grade, and so, okay, fine. And I went in, and here's this curriculum, and when we came to the literature section, they were reading The Bridge to Terabithia. Great children's book,
Yeah.
okay? And I read it, and I started teaching, and oh my gosh, that was home for me,
Okay.
teaching literature. So I went on the next 20 some odd years. I moved to middle school, went on teaching English.
Okay.
Loved it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so how did your journey bring you to Auburn, California?
Through a dare.
That's the best way.
Yeah. Let's see. I sold my home in Sunnyvale and I moved to Los Gatos. And then I'm not sure exactly how it happened. I was driving through Auburn one day, and my husband had passed on 20 years earlier, and I had this trust fund. And I found this home, and I bought it as rental income. And then as time went on, I wanted to live in it,
Right?
but I couldn't do it. The price differentiate, what would I do with my place in Los Gatos? I wanted to rent it out, but I didn't have enough money to get them. Well, I didn't want to live in that. My daughter was living with that at the time,
Right.
but I wanted to live in Auburn, and I didn't have enough money to buy a place here.
But you had your rental, but you didn't want to kick the people out?
Right.
Okay.
The person being my daughter.
Oh,
And,
she
yeah.
was here in Auburn.
Yeah.
Got
yeah,
it.
Yeah, my
Okay,
daughter,
okay.
Alexandra.
Okay.
So what I finally did was I gave in and I sold my place there because the realtors kept saying up here, you can't do it until you sell down there. And that went on for about 2 years. And finally, I just said, watch me. I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're good
So-
at that.
So I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
So, and I love it.
I worked and lived in Los Gatos for a while. I loved Los Gatos too. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, you probably ran into me. I was in the post office at the time. That's where I
Oh, I
worked.
probably did.
Yeah, yeah,
Son of a gun.
yeah. Anyway, so and I lived in Scotts Valley for a little while down there too. I loved that area.
That's a
but
really
then
nice area.
things just went awry. And anyway, so you came here. You have the one daughter. Is
I have
that
both daughters.
two daughters?
But Alexandra,
Okay.
I have another one who's a college professor down at Oxford. No, Occidental.
Occidental. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Doesn't fall far from the tree. Your girls are good.
There.
All right. That's so fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so you came up here now, and you'd been widowed. You were by yourself when you came here.
No, I brought a significant other along.
See, that's always good. Is he
Yeah.
a handyman? See, my third husband's going to be a handyman. I keep telling everybody that.
Mike gets irked. He starts working on something and he gets really ticked off at it. On the other hand, I love home repair.
Oh my gosh! I'm
I
going to
can-
have to call you.
I can operate any saw you mentioned. I mean, I own my own table saw. I have a circular saw. I have a reciprocal saw. I enjoy this kind of thing.
Yeah.
My husband and I completely redid a great big home in Sunnyvale.
Yeah, yeah.
Just,
That's fun.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, I do know just a little bit, but your husband was friends with Wozniak? Is that it? Did I hear that right?
He was in on the ground floor of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So he was in what was called the Homebrew Computer Club,
Okay.
which you can look that up.
Okay.
And it was just a bunch of guys tooling around in a garage, and two of them were named Steve. And this was back in let's see, we got married in 73, must have been around 1975.
Okay.
And so he did that for a few years, and then Silicon Valley took off, and he got, a job
Right.
working in the industry. And, that was when research and development was actually research and development. And,
Yeah.
10 years later, it was more about production.
Well, and that makes sense in the projection of how
Theoretically, yeah.
things work, right? You have to develop it, you have to fine tune it, and then you have to sell it, and yeah. And what a whirlwind time, though. Man, things started going fast, didn't
Oh,
they?
my goodness, yes.
I mean, one day we're here, and 5 years later, we're like, what happened to that, right?
Yeah,
So, oh gosh, how interesting though to
Yeah.
be on that. And then you had your two girls with, that's fun.
Yeah.
So you're up here. How did you get involved with AAUW?
Well, okay, so my daughter plays in the Auburn Symphony, and well, she just retired from that, plays in Folsom Lake. I play in Folsom Lake with her. I used to play in Auburn. But to back up, before I had auditioned for Auburn, during the pandemic, Mike was back east. He had had a family emergency, and I was alone in the house. And I was just getting bored and going crazy. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't be anyone. And I called up, Alexandra, my daughter, her stand partner is Norma Sexton.
Oh, I love
Okay?
Norma Sexton.
Yes, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
Norma makes jam.
Okay, yes, she does.
Awesome jam.
Yeah.
And Alexandra apparently had told her my mom would like some jam. So Alexandra called me one day and she said, Norma's coming over with jam. Well, I thought she meant Norma was coming to Alexandra's house. I thought, okay, thank you for telling me.
Right.
And then a knock on the door, and it's Norma. I put my mask on, and I look at her, and I did not know her.
Her mask.
I mean, I knew what she looked like.
Because it was pandemic.
Pandemic,
yeah.
right.
Gotcha.
And she's handing me these huge jams. And when you're desperate, I just leaned against the door jamb. I said, Norma, do you know anybody that you could introduce me to?
Oh, the perfect person to ask.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And she said, do you like to hike? I said, I love to hike. She said, there's a hike tomorrow. Have you heard of AAUW? I said, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
So I went on the hike, and the rest is history.
Yeah, because you got to know Deb Sabo
Deb,
and
yeah.
Norma and
Susan
Mary-
was there. Susan
Rough Garden.
Uh-huh.
She doesn't always hike now, but I think she did then. And then, did Mary Lord join in later?
I
maybe?
don't know. She lives right up the street from
Yeah,
me, though, and we
yeah.
hike together quite a lot.
Yeah, she's a hiker too.
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I'm so
yeah.
jealous.
So-
Oh, lovely.
Well, the thing that amazed me when I got involved in AAUW is these women are all, so, I want to say powerful. I mean, that's a word depending on the individual. They're educated, even if not formally not college educated, because I know we're trying to go that direction to include more women.
Right.
They are very intelligent.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
think things through. They can have a conversation. We have on the political spectrum everybody, and yet when the conversation does go that direction, people are respectful and they have something to say of some weight
Yes.
about things. And I am so impressed. By
I
these
feel
women.
very small against most of the members. They're so
So do
bright.
I.
I
So
mean,
do
I try to tell myself I can keep up, but they are dynamic. They really, some of these
They
women
are.
are. I'm going to include you in that too now.
Well, I have to include
Yeah.
you. I mean, the first,
Yeah,
not
because
the
you're on the show.
first or second, yeah, right. The first or second hike I went on, though, there was somebody, I don't recall who was an attorney in Jerry Brown's office. You know,
Oh, yeah.
they're various. They're former psychologists. There
Yeah.
are. You were an engineer, a radiologist.
Radiologist, yeah,
Radiologist.
yeah.
I can't remember what.
Deb's the engineer.
Deb's an engineer. All these women,
Yeah.
I remember watching Deb hold up she had a microphone package that she was unpacking for an event we were having. And I remember thinking, dear God in heaven, if I had to do that, I would be all thumbs. How do I hook this up? And she's busy talking and putting it together and, putting all the chords where, because that's her training.
Yes.
Not
yeah.
because I'm stupid, but because I've never been trained in that.
Right. Right.
And,
I think we all do tend to, we obviously go where we feel comfortable, right? And so, yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyway, and you're a musician,
yes.
and you're still at Folsom Symphony. You were at Auburn also, running candles at both ends, right?
Yeah, that was too much at my
Yeah.
age. Yeah.
And so you went, because your daughter's still at the Folsom Symphony. What do you
Right.
both play?
She plays cello. She's the principal cellist. She actually earns her income as a cellist.
Okay.
So she is a full-time cellist.
Okay.
And then I'm just a community orchestra member, so I just play in the second
And
violin section.
second
Yeah,
violin,
violins.
okay.
Yeah.
So you knew Sue Dings too, right?
Oh,
Did
yes.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. She left Auburn just as I joined.
Joint. Okay.
But again, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It was the time for Sue.
Yeah.
She's a, oh my gosh, I that's a whole other journey. She's so dynamic and wonderful and involved, and oh my gosh, Sue, nods to you. So, okay, and then I do know, because I do know a few things, that you love to travel,
Yes.
and that your most recent trip was something you really had wanted to do in what we call the bucket list.
It was a
right?
bucket list, yeah. I went to South America, and I went to the Galapagos Islands, and I went to Machu Picchu, and it was very interesting because I went with an organized group, but I was the only unmarried single woman there, and so it was difficult for me to have companionship, so that was kind of a downer. But, you know, everything was organized for me, so that was great.
Right.
And, you know, I learned a lot of things. I have lots of pictures of blue-footed boobies, red-footed boobies, learned about the
I just like saying booby.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
The Nazca booby, look it up, the Nazca booby, Nazca. The Nazca booby has an awful habit that has been built into it for centuries, which is that the female lays 2 eggs. Once they are born, one is born before the other, and the one that is firstborn then kills the second-born one by pushing it out from under the mother and letting it dry in the
Well, the moral of that story is better be the firstborn.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was just interesting. But you know, I saw all sorts of things that what are they called with the red chest? Can't remember what they're called, but yeah. And the thing that amazed me was the Ecuadorian government is really, really protective of the Galapagos Islands. You cannot go on them without a trained naturalist, and those naturalists to be a tour guide in Ecuador and Peru, it's a major in college. They actually major in this.
Wow.
So they learn paleontology, archaeology, everything.
Yeah.
So you can get, the wildlife is this close to you.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they're used to people coming and going. It was a great thing. And Machu Picchu, oh my goodness. It's just amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Those are fantastic journeys.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is. Okay, and then you and I both are in AAUW's Great Decisions. It's a subset, what do we call them? Subsection, like a book group, a hiking group, and it's called Great Decisions. And talk about feeling the little voice in the room. These articles are brilliantly written, or not so brilliantly written because you can't understand them.
Yeah, no, that's wrong.
I mean, that's not good, right? But then the discussions around different, again, kind of playing into your global interests. I can see why you grabbed onto this and ran with it. That's very cool.
Yeah.
But a book comes out, and there are 9 topics in the book. Eight topics that we carry once a month. I noticed I'm supposed to do the next one in September with Sue Dings, and I'm not going to be able to. I haven't called her yet. Sue, sorry, I'll talk to you. Anyway, it's about
Now
NATO.
she knows.
Now she knows. It's like, don't tell anybody and you're on TV. NATO, it's about NATO, and I wanted to read more about it. I don't know like I should know, but one thing I really think the Ukraine people and the government should be part of NATO, but they can't be part of NATO while they're at war, if I understand it correctly. I think that's a little bit of the background of that. So they have to get out of this war, and then you have to be, I don't say invited, but you do have to get voted in, I think. So all of that to be confirmed at a later date. But those are the kinds of discussions that come out of this group, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, all that's going on. So, but okay, musician, handy person, and global affairs, French. Wow. Anything else about you that we need to know? That we would like to know?
I do yoga once a week.
Yoga once a week. That's good. That's
Just
good.
to stretch out.
Yeah, stretch out's good.
Yeah.
Now, and tell me a little bit more about Folsom Symphony. Are they done now for the season?
Folsom Lake Symphony, yes, it is done for the season.
Okay.
Then the next concert is an outdoor concert in El Dorado,
Okay.
and then the season starts up again.
are you offset with the Auburn Symphony so people can go to both? I think
Yes.
you are, aren't
Yes.
you? Don't you
Yes.
work well? Because
Yeah.
is Peter Jaffe still at Folsom?
Yes,
Yes.
he was at Auburn,
Auburn.
and then he resigned. It was just he also directs.
Too much. He was
well,
doing that and another one, wasn't he?
Well,
Doing
yeah,
Stockton
and
or
I don't.
something?
Yeah, something like that. And I think he teaches down there. He
Yeah.
does a lot, and so I don't want to speak for him.
Understood. I'm, so much energy. I don't understand. I want to take a nap almost every day. Okay. Anyway, you are dynamic, delightful, just a whirlwind of information and fun things. And let's see, did I have one last? You're retired. You've obviously set your goals for travel.
Yes.
And for being involved in AAUW. Your music continues. Grandkids? Any grandkids?
I do. I have 2 grandkids.
Okay.
And the thing that's interesting about them is both parents teach at Occidental. And so, again, during the pandemic, for
Right.
example, they moved to Texas with the other set of grandparents. But the kids my daughter and son-in-law were still teaching through Zoom. And so the kids had to entertain themselves. Well, Mike and I went out there to stay with them over Christmas. And I was just amazed at how my grandkids at that age, they must have been, 8 and 10, entertained themselves in the living room all day long. I mean, what they did was they made crazy little videos and things like that. And we have one that is hysterically funny. It's called Grandpa Mike's Nap. And they sneaked in and they filmed Grandpa Mike taking his nap, complete with the snoring and everything else. And then my little devilish grandson put some insane music behind the whole thing. So there's this very loud wackadoo music, and there's Grandpa Mike going on this big bed.
That's so fun.
One for the ages.
Yes, yeah. We always have perfect little stories like that.
But they're coming up tomorrow,
Okay.
which means they get to babysit my dogs for me.
Okay. Okay.
My granddaughter loves dogs.
Okay. So that's good too. Yeah. So, okay, I am going to wrap it up because I have a few minutes to close out the show. And if I say anything from this point on, it's my opinion, not AAUW. Not Carol's, unless she chimes in, and it's not ACTV who is producing this, and I don't want to, it's just my opinion. But here's my last thoughts for you all. Happy summer. It actually starts the 20th of June, so it's just around the corner. Happy Father's Day. That's coming up Sunday the 15th, very soon. June is a beautiful month. And, okay, so Saturday is Flag Day, and it is also the 250th anniversary, I guess you call it, of the Army, the United States Army. It is also the current president's birthday. So, so during our wackadoodle times of political, especially in California right now with LA's unrest ordeals going on down there. So the president is organizing well, if we were in Scotland, we'd call it a tattoo, but it's like a big parade. And he's saying it's to celebrate the Army, which it is. It's to celebrate Flag Day, which it is. And please, people, don't let anybody take your flag away from you. It's everyone's flag. And it's also his birthday, his 79th birthday. So throughout the country, there is a number of, last number I heard was 1,800 protests, quiet protests, calm protests of this whole event, in that we don't want a king as our ruler, because it gives a presentation of exactly that, a dictator or a king. And so these protests are very valuable. I wish them well. I like to protest, and the less said about him, and I will say him, but President Trump, I think the better, because I think he relishes and thrives on being the focus of whatever's going on, and whether it be political, personal, egregious, happy, whatever. So I think it would be also good, if you don't want to have a protest, that you're doing the right thing, being quiet. I think both are good. I think you have to follow your heart with what you believe. So I do believe in healing the country as well, and so I hope that they are peaceful protests and not get confrontational, and that everyone is safe and sound through them. But I want to go back to, I love our military and 250 years of our military army protecting, being there for us, whether we like it or not. They have held this country together, and I think they will continue to do so under all circumstances. So I honor that. I also honor Flag Day for a whole different reason than most of you think, but this little girl in 1967 got off the train in Sacramento, California, coming from Illinois on Flag Day. So I always remember June 14th. So just a little personal note. But I also believe, I've had friends of mine don't like to hang the flag, or the flag is on the back of trucks of beliefs they don't carry. But it's everybody's flag. Don't let anybody take that flag away from you. I think it's so important. So wear your red, white, and blue. Be proud of your flag. Be proud of it for what it stands for you. It doesn't always have to stand for what everybody else might think or whatever. Anyway, with that, have a great summer. Do take care of one another. We all are here for a reason, and we all have good stories. Thanks, Carol. And see you next time, everybody. Take care.